Hello and God bless you. This is Ellen Mongan and welcome to Wow Mom. Today is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad. It's kind of a rainy day in Georgia, but sometimes as mothers, we have rainy days too. See, tears are part of our prayers unspoken. Tears are things that cleanse our soul and help us be real. So today, we're going to be really real in the show. We're going to talk about motherhood and an author and writer named CarolMULETA. I hope I pronounced your name right. And so welcome to the show, Carol.
Thank you so much for having me, Ellen. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
I too. We met and I feel like everything Carol and I do is a bond. We have so many similar ministries and so many similar ways of parenting. Our heart is to tell other mothers and teach them that motherhood is a gift, and it's we're raising the next generation. It's not like I'm just a mother. So I'm glad to meet you again, Carol, on air. I was on her show, and we'll tell a little more about her show as well. And I'm going to first read her bio. So here we go. Carol is a woman of wisdom. She knows a lot of things. In the scripture, Titus 2 states that the older woman, not that she's older, she's younger, she's my older woman friend, and that the older women are to learn to teach the younger woman. And we don't do bloopers, so that was just a blooper. Titus 2, check it out. The older woman teach the younger woman how to be good wives and mothers. What a great role for the older women. They're not just nothing, they have a purpose in the body of Christ. So here we go. CarolMULETA, and I love her last name, is a certified parenting educator and consultant and the creator of Parenting 411, a portal where she engages parents, taking them from overwhelmed and overjoyed to overjoyed. She guides them in building strong families, connections, and fostering their child's success in academics and life. She was named the 2019 DC Mother of the Year, applause, by the American Mothers Incorporation. She is a co-founder of Parenting Education and Consulting company where she designs parenting programs and privately consults with families. She hosts the Parenting 411 radio show where she explores various matters affecting family life, from discipline and communication to work-life harmony and co-parenting. Carol was named the Radio Personality of the Year at Speakers Conference in 2019, and she's a contributing author of The Courageous Enough to Launch: Stories and Strategies of Everyday Women Who Face Their Fears to Launch and Thrive in Business. She's author also of the book I have right here. It's one of my favorites, Pearls of Wisdom. Can you all see it? I guess if I go closer. And it is about virtue, really. It's a Pearls of Wisdom, but it's called Mother's Work for the title. And she's also the author of this other book, which I thought was ingenious. She wrote it before the pandemic, Help Mothers to Face, and it is called The Parenting Odyssey. And lastly, Carol and her husband are proud parents of, you ready? Twins. Double your pleasure, double your fun. Hey, Carol, welcome. I told you.
Thank you.
What do you think about
I enjoyed your introduction.
Thank you. God has used you in a mighty way. And we always quote Esther, for a time such as this. This is what's needed, Carol. So what do you think about parenting and then motherhood? And then why don't you mention your husband? Because usually when they can do the bio, and I have a husband too, and the husband is the key to the parenting going well. We divide and conquered.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I am very thankful for my partner in parenting, partner in life, my husband. Yes. He has been, just amazingly supportive. He's a wonderful dad, to our sons. As far as motherhood, I mean, it's just a wonderful journey. And you think that you are put here to guide these children and teach them, but you don't realize that you're also learning so much more about yourself. And I believe that I read a book, this was long before I was a parent. I believe it was by Norman Vincent Peale. I can't recall, but he said something about how when God isn't able to get your attention, lessons that he's tried to teach you in your life, a lot of times he will bring them out through your kids. And so I definitely believe that that's true. I think motherhood has been a very enriching journey for me. Certainly, there are other ways to learn and grow, but if you're going to do it, just expect to be stretched and just enlightened in ways beyond your imagination.
I think that's great. God has his ways. I say to people, they go, what's that mean? Well, he has his ways. His ways because he wants us to become more like Christ. So
Hmm.
he does. So what is your husband's name and your children's name, Carol? Your husband's name is
John, and
John.
my children are Matt and Zach. Hmm.
Ben, Zach, okay. And so what do y'all think twins? So what I was gonna say, first of all, my thing is I always wanted twins. And then I met people with twins. It's not a piece of cake. There's a few extra things. God gives extra grace and you have extra strength. And there's a few sleepless nights more than with one. So what was the biggest lesson you did learn as a mother during the twin raising, the young days?
Well, about motherhood in general, it's just that you've got to chart your own course. I
That's
think that a lot of times when we start out, we are looking at what maybe our friends are doing or have done with their children or other people in our family, and we want to follow that model, but really it's your journey because you have different children, right? And that's by design. God gives you the children that they need to have that you need to have, and God gives them the parents that are meant to guide them on their journey with their particular sets of experiences and insights and all of that. So first of all, the journey is your own, and you have to remember that. And then as far as mothering twins, man, I thought it was going to be like summer camp. I say that in my book, but
the summer of it
and I
all.
even thought that having two would make it even more fun. They'd play together, they'd do all of that. And of course they did, but that a lot of things they just didn't want to do at the same time. As a matter of fact, most things in the beginning, they did not want to do at the same time. So I very quickly had to learn how to adapt and parent them in the way that they each needed to be parented because they come here with different temperaments and all of that. And then bring them together so that they could grow and learn certain life lessons together that all children need to have.
Mhm.
um, and so that was the biggest thing. And parenting in general I thought was easier than it is.
What's
Some
that?
parents have made it look easy.
Oh, see, they're pretending like it's easy. Like, and then you're gonna say, the person, you had a baby sleep the night when? Well, they don't mention it was like 5. I said, okay, that's nice. Tell me this. I just am interested. This isn't even on our notes. We never look at the notes that much, but I'm gonna look a little today because she has so many key points that she's a whiz. So do they pick the same college and the same careers? Because now her teens are kind of grown up, they're like adults. They didn't.
No, they did not pick the same college, the same major. They have very different interests and just very different needs. So they did pick the same state. They wound
Okay.
up in the same state. They didn't start off in the same state, but they ended up in the same state. I will say that. So that worked out.
I when I was
Only
a
have to visit one place.
That's right. That's right. I didn't get it. But when I was a little child, I remember there's a book about twins. That's what probably made me start this journey to I want twins. And it was about the mom had twins and she wanted to dress them alike, and they're two little girls, treat them alike. And then one day one of the twins went, wait a minute, I'm gonna be myself. And the mom was smart enough in this little, I think it was a golden book in those days, that she decided, okay, you dress like you want. It was the first start for individualism. Now, even though we don't have twins, one of my mom key things is let them be themselves unless it's sin. Let them, explore different things, different looks or different, their room look different, whatever, and their different studies, like you said, to college. So that you did good, I think.
Well, I can say I agree that that's important as well. And once I knew that we were going to have twins,
Mhm.
I started talking to people because there were a few people that I worked with
Mhm.
that were twins, and then I also sat down and talked with a mom who had twin girls, twin daughters, and so I learned a lot. And one thing that was very important that I learned from the twins was that they felt like the people around them, the adults around them, expected them to be this one unit and to want to do all the same things, to have the same personalities and all of this. And they really bristled against that. They didn't like that. So that was something that I went in knowing that I didn't want to do. But I will say my sons are fraternal twins, and they look more like my husband and myself than they do each other. They do look like brothers, but they don't look identical. They don't necessarily look like twins. And so for that first year, I did dress them alike, but I would maybe have them wear different colors, the same sweater, the same style, but different color or something, because I did feel like I wanted them to look over at the other person and know that this is a special person. We have a special relationship, a unique relationship beyond just being brothers. And then after that first year, I dress them based on their personalities, the different things that I brought home. One liked, the other didn't, and whatever. So I sort of learned what they liked and what their styles were. So that was fun. Now, neither of them necessarily want to wear what I pick out
That's
when
always
it's
sad.
with gifts and all that. But I'm like, guys, my undergraduate major was fashion merchandising. This is what I know. You ought to pay attention to me. But
I do
they
like
have a
that.
mind of their own now.
I like fashion merchandising. Thank you for sharing that because moms, we can we can tell them what to do when they're little, but then when they get bigger, they do have opinions. I always say about my kids, I said on your show too, they come visit and they bring their personalities. But we want our children to be formed and be able to speak up and be themselves. So Carol, you learned a few lessons along the way, and you said on one of your notes to me was that you want to help the mothers that are I'm saying, read my notes here, what are their modern day challenges that they face, because they face some different things that we did, at least me. I'm a lot older than you, but I go, whoa, this generation, you're up for the challenge. Carol's going to tell you some ideas about what they face and how they can overcome.
Well, yes, definitely. Number one is what I alluded to a little earlier, and that is chart your own course,
I like
which
that.
can be more challenging now. And even when my children were born 22 years ago, because now you've got social media. So you've got this extra peer pressure. It's not just what you see at the playground or what you see at family gatherings that other parents are doing, and you feel inferior to them. Well, now you've got social media, and you've got these parents showing you what they're doing with their children, and all of these cute little videos, perfectly curated and edited, and you think that you're falling short. So that can be hard in this time to really chart your course, figure out what your vision is for your children, for your family, and stick to it no matter what you're seeing. So that's number one. Next, practice relentless self-care. And I
I
put
like
the
this
emphasis
too.
on relentless. You've got to engage in activities that refresh, revive, and replenish you, because you just can't serve or you can't care for people when you haven't cared for yourself. You can't pour from an empty vessel. And another thing that's very important is to nurture your friendships. And certainly in the early years, you may not be able to come together in person as often as you used to. You may not be able to take girls' trips or something as often as you used to, but you can still stay connected. You can still send a text. I'm just thinking about you. You can still remember their birthdays and all of that. So, but keep those friendships, especially, you value these friendships. Keep those people in connection with you, because that hands-on season of parenting really is that. It's a season, and there's more to your life and more to who you are than just than being a mom. So hold on to those friendships. You're going to need them. Also share the load. Don't be shy about having your spouse, your partner help you with the day-to-day tasks with the children. And plus, remember that they're building a relationship too when they do that. And continue to learn. And I say that you just want to keep your mind fresh. You certainly are going to be spending a lot of time with what the children are doing, the books they're reading, what they're learning in school, and all of that. You've got to stay on top of that, but you want to stimulate your mind so that you keep growing. And again, in that next season, when your children have moved on to greater levels of independence, you have something that you can do.
Thank you.
And finally, keep dreaming. Set short-term goals for yourself as well as long-term goals for yourself. Motherhood is not meant to stunt your growth. It enhances. And so, you'll be bringing what you've learned as a mother to other pursuits that you have. So, be ready for that. Be ready for that next season. So keep dreaming.
Yeah, motherhood is just like an adventure, but it is like a stepping stone because you have skills you do learn that she said, like you can put in the next step, but it's like an adventure that you don't know where you're going or where it's going to end up. And at the end, you look back at yourself, say, I was never that patient before, or I was never that kind, or it grows you, like you're saying, but it also grows you to stop and not do anything but the kids is really kind of like a mistake in your life, because then when you get to be empty nesters, you've given all you had and they have to move on. You're calling your children to grow up and fly. And so that's important. I think what you said is so important, because that's my new thing, is because I'm an empty nester and I have been for a while, but we have, floating people that come and go like we all do. And I put so much into the kids, and then I did the grandkids, and I didn't really take that next step on my own at first. And now I tell mom, by the time your children are getting in kindergarten, you just know what you want to do to start aiming towards it. Maybe you go back to school, maybe you start a business, maybe you other ideas, Carol, because you know how it is. And you don't want to be like some of my friends are watching their grandbabies, which is excellent. I did that on the first two myself. But then the children, at some point, you want to fly too, right, Carol?
Yes, I definitely agree with that.
Airplane hovering. Here I am. I'm the mother. Here's Nana. And then it's really, we all did it. I don't know, Carol, I'm sure you had some help. I didn't really have help with the children because I wanted to be hands-on. You had twins, so I don't know, but I actually felt like it was very important for me to form them because I knew I was going to form them the way of the Lord. So I didn't do a lot of things of outsourcing my kids, but I did outsource some other things. So yes, please, that is very important. I like that. So Carol wrote this one book I loved, and I really did, about virtue, and I thought it was great. I called the wrong name before, but it's Mother's Work, and it's about pearls of wisdom. And I wrote them all down here somewhere. But you want to share about any of those or why they need to because this is what you have to instill in yourself and others. These qualities are the ones, these are key, the ones you chose. And I found that great for the moms of this generation, because we have a lot of going on, Carol, in the area of, like you mentioned, the other, I think it was in the other book, about different trials they have in the area of, like, let there be peace on earth, but instead we have some other thing other than peace. And Carol and I both like the fruit of peace, is my favorite. Keeps my teeter-totter balanced. So you want to share about the virtue they can have to form their children in?
Well, as far as the pearls, I often, when someone asks me to pick one to talk about, I very often talk about courage, because
like that.
courage was I was so surprised by how much courage it takes to parent. But today, I don't know, I just feel led to talk about presence.
I like that.
And that is, it's just so important to be there in the moment with your children, and also in the moment in terms of whatever you're doing. And so because early on, when my children were born, I found myself just so busy trying to stay on top of making sure they had their food, make sure, formula, once we started using formula and all of that, I found myself just forgetting to enjoy and settle into the moment that I was in, whatever I was doing. I was always thinking about the next thing or thinking about what I should be doing. And so I think that is so important. So get organized, do these other things that I'm talking about in terms of self-care and all of that, so that when you are in a moment, you don't feel like you're robbing from something else, or that you should be doing something else. It's hard to do. I'm sure I am making it sound very easy, but I just think that
she's a Wonder Woman.
It's very important to be present. It's not always easy to do, but I think it's something to strive for.
And what steals your presence? Mostly that little cell phone that people like so much. It does steal a lot of your presence, moms. And the TV. Take a poll one day, sit down and look at it and go, like, how much time was I spending when the children go, mommy, look at this. And I was just a second, just a second, just a second. Take a poll and see. You'll be surprised, really. You know what? I always say this, Carol, it's as plain as a nose on your face. And I have a big nose, but I can't see it, but other people can see it. And so ask a friend to come over and do like a friend date and play the children, see what happens, how much attention you're giving them. Now, on the other end, giving them too much attention, Carol, makes a spoiled child. I have done that as well.
Oh,
So
I
that's the
absolutely
opposite.
agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. I mean, first of all, sometimes for them it's like back up. Like it's too intense. But then you really, the rest of the world is not going to be zeroed in on their every need and want and making life easy and simple for them. That's just not going to be the real world. So they need to understand that they're not the center of the universe. They're very important to us, but they're not the center. Like everything doesn't revolve around them. That's a very unhealthy way to grow up, and just very unhealthy sense of self to try to move in the world with, because you're going to be disappointed. Hopefully disappointed.
I wrote an hour list that's just a minute with the finger up, because my one granddaughter will say it to me, just a minute, Nana. But however, I had one daughter that kept going, Mom, you know what, and then I was at the pool and I'm like, I was watching all the children that I don't swim and they do. And I go like this, Amanda, I only can listen to one more, just a minute. And she's not my talker now, she's in the middle, but it was like, I usually was attentive, but if I couldn't be, you can't. So her pearls of great wisdom I like to mention are purpose, faith, courage, wisdom, love, friendship, presence, and peace. And I thought those were great. I especially think, Carol, courage is a word of the year, a word of the day. Courage. It takes courage to be a mother. It takes courage right now to be an adult. And it takes courage to even birth that baby. So, in lieu of the fact that we're not only going to talk about motherhood, we're talking about our faith, and we're talking about Carol in her book. So please, this is CarolMULETA, and she is an author and a writer and speaker, and she hosts, I think she does some shows on Parenting for One. That's your channel, right? Your station.
That is my podcast, the Parenting 411 podcast.
I like it. I like it a lot. So we're going to go on to this other book, which I thought timing was brilliant, because a lot of mothers lost their courage during the pandemic. And when I pulled it out to read it, I go, wow, that was really using your gifts at the right time, at the right place. So what do you think about that? Why did you write it, and how can it help people today? Because it could not only be the pandemic, it could be other things in their life.
Well, what I found was, as I was interviewing folks for my podcast or on my other platform, I have a News You Can Use platform on Thursday evenings on Facebook Live, I would be talking to them about their particular area of expertise. Maybe it's mental health, maybe it's teaching children finance skills, or maybe even racism. But we always ended up coming back to, how is the family coping during the pandemic? And so what I heard were some interesting perspectives. A lot of parents were talking about how they rediscovered their children. They learned things about their children they didn't know. Also, the time spent, particularly in the early days of the lockdown, when we didn't know as much about the coronavirus in terms of how is it really transmitted. This is kind of before it became very clear that it was, airborne primarily, and all of that. So people were forced to stay home, either by themselves or with their families, and they just learned more about themselves. They learned more about what's important to them, and then they were able to compare how they were living to their ideal version of the way they should be living. So it gave them an opportunity to course correct a little bit. And so when it came to families, they were able to look at, are we living up to the values that we had for ourselves? And what do we need to do to get back there? Because honestly, for many people, aside from the fact that there was a virus out there, a lot of people were kind of glad to be able to slow down. And it was a situation where everybody had to slow down, because it can be hard to slow down when you feel like everybody else is continuing to move, because you feel like you're going to be left behind, you're going to miss out on something. But we didn't have to worry about that, because nobody was going anywhere. And so that, that was the first thing I thought. And I remember I was relieved to slow down. I mean, I really hoped that they figured out what was going on with the coronavirus, but I was glad to be able to slow down. And so I heard that a lot. I heard a lot about, making some changes. Some of them were subtle changes about how much time they were going to spend together, maybe cutting back on electronics, maybe walking in nature a lot more. Maybe they hadn't been doing that as much before, maybe not as much as a family. But then some people made big decisions, like maybe they decided this is the time that I'm going to start a new business, or I'm going to I'm going to try for a different job. Like I want to go into a different career direction. Like this is something I always wanted to do, and there's no time like the present. So I wanted to capture that in this book. I wanted to capture certainly the tips, the day-to-day tips, like this is how I was able to engage with my child so they wouldn't spend so much time on electronics, or this is how I was able to comfort my child because my child was very anxious about what was going on. So here's some ideas. And so I also wanted parents to realize that they were not alone. So, I'm sure many parents felt like I'm not meeting this moment. I'm not really doing enough for my children and my family in this moment. And then they learn that other people have struggled too. Like you're not the only one that's having a problem here. But another thing I wanted to do too was to have something written, to leave something for future generations to be able to see, just as we were wondering, well, how did people cope back during the Spanish flu? I mean, I'm sure in the medical community, they were looking at what did they do and how did they communicate what was going on, to inform their strategy for how to keep us safe. So families can look back and see that, this might have been a pivotal moment in their family history. This is the moment that my family launched this company, or this is the moment that my family decided we're going to start going to church more often, or because maybe they missed it by not being able to go out and worship. They realized how important fellowship and worship in person was. So now my family made a new decision about that. So I thought this would be very informative and enlightening, and so that's what really prompted me to do it. It was something that was circulating in my mind for quite some time, and I was trying to figure out the right time to do it. And honestly, when I did really set the wheels in motion to launch the book, I was like, oh wow, by the time the book is really released, the pandemic's going to be over and people are going to say, oh, I'm tired of talking about it. But certainly we are better off than we were from the very beginning, but we're still kind of dealing with it. And then something else that I realized was that parents here are talking about how they coped during the pandemic, but really this book is a primer on how to rise up and conquer crisis. And while we hope and pray that we won't have to deal with another pandemic, we do know that there will be more challenges, there will be more crises in our life, and this book can help.
I think it's excellent. I wanted to read what reading again, and this is not my thing. Okay, this talk, she wants to teach. Your mission, it said, was to teach parents and then to implement calming strategies for kids, especially during the challenging times like the pandemic. I love that you wrote, your mission is to provide a forum for parents to receive valuable tools and treasures to guide their families, and the mission becomes more valuable that the pandemic is here and past. I think I really like that. I like that the pandemic brought out in us the same thing you said parenting did. Do we have certain faults? We think, well, I've overcome that one. And then we see, whoa, that one is really alive and well, or do we have something that we like is lacking, like the religion? Maybe we need to go back to church or have time with the Lord in our own homes, since a lot of times we couldn't. We were in the house a lot. We had a blessing for the pandemic, and all our kids moved almost all in the same neighborhood, and then we joined them from Florida. That was a positive, but there were a lot of positives. I like the thing about self-care, and sometimes the one thing a mom is lacking is the self-care. And it's a time to say, go through your clothes and get rid of the wardrobe changes you wanted to get rid of. Her. There was some read books that you hadn't read before, and maybe found a new interest. Like maybe you loved history as a kid, but you never read a book about Abe Lincoln or something, and you started to read. And so there were positives, but I still think that I'm glad that it's behind us, Carol. And the next mountain we climb, we won't get bitter, we'll get better. I did like the chapter. I told Carol, as I tell one chapter I liked, I probably would have liked them all, but I just thought that this one chapter, it was a long title. My kids taught me how to let them learn. And the chapter was about how the two children had different learning styles. And it was by probably a friend of yours, I don't know, but I can't see the name because I'm blind. Do you want to say who it was by?
Oh, that chapter is by Dr. Lakeisha Barrera Gibbs.
Thank you, thank you. And she was excellent because she taught me that the pandemic had just started. She didn't know the kids were going to have to go home from school for so long. But what did she do? Did she panic or complain? No, she bought backpacks for a bunch of other children that might and fill them with food. That's what I understood. And I go, wow, she took a bad time or a bad experience and made it a blessing for someone else. And isn't that what life's all about, Carol? That's what you do. You look at your life and say, well, I learned a few things. I'm going to make it a blessing for someone else, teach them some things along the way. So I like that.
Yes, yes. I enjoyed all the chapters, and that one was good because, and I think it definitely applies in other instances because it really brings home the point that children are different, even in the same family. Children have very different needs and perspectives. They even the same incident that happens in the family, they will walk away with a different idea and draw different conclusions about it and learn different lessons from it. So, and that's certainly something that I learned. I mean, even with my twins, and I used to joke that I'm a different mother to them. I mean, and certainly I'm consistent about my values and certain standards that I had. That didn't change, but in terms of the way that I communicated, the way I conveyed information, the same information to them was different. And the way I engage with them, the jokes that I can tell and exchange with one child, the other one doesn't think that's funny at all. And you know, and then something that I might do with my other son, who's pretty serious, the other one, that's too much for him. He's like, lighten up. So you just have to meet them where they are, and I feel like that was the essence of her message in that chapter.
Yeah, I like that. I did. And you meet when you one thing I like about doing podcasts, Carol, you may would join me on saying is we get to meet interesting people on the air. Now I never may meet Carol in person, but I already know there's so many compatibilities we have in our life from just meeting these two times. So what she said earlier, take a pause, and when people are there, be present because they have a hidden treasure in their heart. And maybe that's just a treasure you're hunting for. And you don't even know, like, by the way, I'm looking for, no, you don't know what you're looking for. And then they say it or do it and you go, that's just what I need to hear. That's how we hear God sometimes to other people. So,
Yes.
what do you think about parenting? Don't face it without God, without Jesus Christ as a center.
Oh, well, I definitely agree with that. That's definitely been critical for me, not just with motherhood, but really every endeavor that I've pursued. Uh, yeah, I couldn't imagine really approaching anything without uh, consulting with God and seeking some guidance there.
And he actually has led you, I think, seriously, to do different. You've gone through different things, like you're a writer, and then you do the podcast. And each step, the way he leads you, is the next step. It's like always walking on the water. You don't know what's next, and you get out of that boat and you walk towards him with your eyes on him. And think, well, how'd you do all that? Well, I felt sad and just paused a minute, and then I got this inspiration to take it from there, Carol.
Well, that's definitely the case. I mean, I wouldn't even be in this work if it wasn't for him. I mean, prior to having my sons, I was working in corporate marketing,
See?
and I had every intention of going back after a few months, going back to that work, if not to my particular position, to working with another organization or starting my own company, which I did start um, marketing and marketing sales consulting company on the side, just small scale while I was home with them. But
In the minutes you had
he's,
left on the day.
what did you say?
In the minutes you had left in the day, you did it on the side, but you had some minutes to breathe.
Oh, right, more seconds. But but even that, he was like, you have to put that aside. I have something else for you to focus on with
See,
my children. So, and then, like I said, I talk about this in the book, 2 years into being a mom, he spoke to me in a dream and he said, all of this that you're learning to help your son. One son was diagnosed with developmental delays. And so I learned a lot about child development, for him so that I could support him and really ultimately both children, because everything that I learned regarding him, I just applied it in general to my parenting. Um, but God told me that you're going to be using all of this that you're learning to help other parents. And I was like, you got to be kidding. This is only 2 years. I've only been doing this 2 years. Who wants to hear from me? And he overcame every objection that I had. I was like, who wants to hear from me? How I don't know how to do this. And he just told me, had an answer for every one of my objections. So he guided me here. And so, and just within the work that I'm doing, he's told me when to make new moves. So I'm very grateful for that guidance. I haven't always been perfectly obedient, and there's a cost to that sometimes.
there's
Delays with what I want to do because there's certain things that I didn't, certain lessons that I didn't get, but I'm getting there.
and I like that. See, I like fashion a lot like you do. And I always think, well, Lord, maybe you want to do something fashion, but he always calls me back to like, it has to be his will, his way, his will is timing. The timing is important. And he wants us to do a certain work. That doesn't mean that some of the things we are, drawn to won't happen as well. So I just thank you. You're an inspiration, but we aren't finished yet. We only have I always talk on the show and say it's going to be a short show. It's always longer than we think. So it's an adventure, motherhood. And she became a woman of valor. She's a woman of valor now. And so how do you raise courageous children? Because this is society. A stand-up guy like Joshua the prophet or Daniel in the lion's den or even Moses that went through the desert for 40 years. He never even looked at his watch and said, this is a really long time. How do you teach your children that same gift? Because you are courageous, Carol. And
Well, yes. So, you've got to, it starts at home and really you've got to start by giving them a voice.
Thank you.
Like, let them know that what they have to say is meaningful, that you're listening. It doesn't mean that they're going to get their way all of the time, but make sure that they feel heard and give them some choice. And you start small early on, give them choices about things that affect them, affect their lives. What are they going to wear today? What snack are they going to have today? And all of that. I mean, they can't have a choice about everything, but when they feel like they have some agency in their lives, then they can, they can be more agreeable when there are things that you have them do that the family needs them to do that they have no choice in. And so next, teach them valuable life skills. Teach them how to perform important tasks. Again, starting in their small circle of influence, those things that will affect them, and then those tasks that help the family, that influence or affect the family, and then just widen that circle. It's the community, it's the school, and all of that. But you want them to arrive on the scene equipped, because a lot of times their meltdowns and lashing out, they're feeling like they're not prepared to meet the moment, whatever the challenge is before them. So you want to prepare them as much as you can. And while there will still be challenges that they will have a reserve of tools. They'll know that they have overcome challenges. They know that they have learned things. And so they won't feel totally incompetent. They're like, well, I learned how to do that. I'll learn how to do this too. And, ask for their ideas and really listen to what they have to say. I'll never forget one year, our son, I think he was 7 or 8, and we were taking a trip, and he had seen a hotel on TV that he wanted us to stay in. And so, I was like, well, okay, let's try it. I looked it up and I was like, wow. I mean, his in his back, his idea was it was cheaper than what we were going to do, right? I'm like, okay, well, let's give it a shot. And it ended up being one of the most fun vacations. It was Nick Sweets, Nickelodeon. He saw it on
Of
Nickelodeon, the
course.
channel. And so Nick Sweets down in Florida. And I tell you, we had a ball. That is a fun place to be.
See,
And so, and for him to know that it cost money and mom and dad were willing to put money basically on his idea, that was very uplifting and affirming. And then to expose them to different people and places and just situations so that they learn how to adapt, so they learn their people that are different from them, and that's not threatening. There are new situations that they're going to have to confront, and they may not have experienced it exactly before, but they have some tools in their backpack that they can use to respond appropriately to the situation. And then always acknowledge their efforts. You don't have to wait for them to succeed at a certain goal to recognize their progress, recognize that they're working every day toward it. And because a lot of times our children sometimes they don't even own their victories. They achieve something, and then they next moment they fixate on what they don't know how to do. So you've got to remind them sometimes that was really a big deal what you did, learning how to ride your bike and all of that. I mean, I know you want to learn how to skateboard next, but let's not forget that you learned how to ride your bike. And I love what Trevor Romaine, he is a children's book author, and he speaks to children around the world so that they can develop good social and emotional skills. And he says nothing can grow in your comfort zone. And he's absolutely right. I mean, that's when you learn, and that's when you discover new things about yourself. So we should constantly be putting our children in that situation so that they can develop the courage and resilience that they are going to need when they set out, when they leave our protection. And that doesn't start all the way when they become adults and leave, but when they go to school, or just when they are in a place and we're not there, and they need to know how to advocate for themselves and respond to the needs of the situation. That's how they develop courage, when we give them practice in those kinds of moments.
and that is so beautiful. That's the same in every virtue. If they don't try it out for themselves, they'll go, my mom is courageous. It's all about a mother instilling confidence and courage in their children. Because if they say, I can't, and you go, okay, let me do it for you, they will never can. I can. I always go back to that little engine that could, I think I can, I think I can. And I've written on it myself, because they have to try it out and then do it for themselves. That's how courage is built. That's how confidence, that's how you get strong adults that don't just sit back and let someone else do it. They get ready and they make a difference in this world. That's what we need, Carol. Adults and children that are being formed to make a difference in this world. Because it's never too late to learn. It's never too early. So, Carol, we want to hear all about your YouTube channel and the podcast Parenting 411. Because that's how I found out about you, through the Matchmaker, I believe it was, a ministry that helps podcasters connect with each other, and through seeing your show. So tell us about that, so they can all sign on, join in, and encourage.
Absolutely. Well, the podcast is the Parenting 411 podcast. And at the Parenting 411, we're committed to delivering information parents need from sources they can trust. And so on the podcast, I try to bring people on who have had life experiences or certain expertise to share with parents, to give them the information they need to make good decisions for their children, tools and strategies to help their children to grow, to reach their full potential. I just know that when I was a young mother, a mother of small children, I very often had to find information. I mentioned that I had to learn a lot about child development and how to support my son. So I remember having to go to different places to learn, even just about parenting, how to be a good parent, and give them certain fundamentals so that they would be well-rounded and well-developed and kind, compassionate, competent, and capable kids. And so I wanted to be able to provide that information for parents so that they don't have to go to so many different places. I wanted to be a source of information that they could trust, that I was really going to bring people on that know what they're talking about, one way or the other, through life experience, through research, study, education, all of that. And so that's what I try to do at the Parenting 411 podcast. I do try to move beyond some of the traditional challenges that parents have. I mean, we talk about communication, we talk about addressing challenging behavior and building strong family connections, of course. But I like to expand and talk about mental health, talk about how to raise good citizens, for example, how to give children financial literacy, talking about how parents can be successful entrepreneurs and still show up for their children, how parents can build healthy relationships, that their parenting experience can rest on, because that's very important. It needs to be an important, needs to be a solid relationship between the parenting partners. So I try to talk about a lot of issues that affect family life from the outside as well as inside. And so the episodes are released every Tuesday morning at 5 a.m. And as Ellen shared, that is how we met, because she was on my podcast. I really wanted to talk about what her platform and just her experience, how she raised her children in faith. And it's just very gratifying work for me. I am so thrilled that I get to meet many people, and I am thankful for the people that reach out and tell me that they've been listening and that they've been encouraged, they've been influenced to take a step that maybe they hadn't considered taking before. So I really enjoy that a lot.
It's great. And thank you so much. You're a wealth of knowledge, a GPS and an ambassador for mothers that think maybe they don't know what to do. And then there's answers. And I know that if you have a question, you can even call Carol. Can you be reached? And then tell them how to get the book, because we're going to show them over time. I don't want them to buy the book. These are really, really books that you need to have in your library. I collect all kinds of books. I have some on the show. I make sure I try to read the book and have their information. So how would they get to buy Mother's Work and also the Parenting Odyssey, which I can actually.
Well, for both of those books, they can visit CarolMULETA.com. That's just my name, CarolMULETA.com, and hit the shop button. And all of the books that I've written are listed there. And I would just love to send you an autographed copy. If you purchase the book, I'm really proud and just thankful for the opportunity to have been able to share my words of encouragement and to share my story with people.
And Carol's a good example. Carol, we're gonna stop the show and say our last words. We do it every time. So if someone's watching the show and they've been listening all along, and we're just gonna tell them what we felt like the main message was. So you go first and I'll go second, and we're gonna close the show off. But I just want to see what you're gonna say.
Well, my favorite message, and I close my podcast with this as well, is that it's never too late to be the parent you want to be. And so, we're certainly every day we are going to fall short of perfection. I mean, as long as we're here, we will not be perfect. We're going to make mistakes, but it's never too late to learn a better way, learn a new way, learn a different way, and incorporate it into your life. I mean, we're all doing the best we can with the information that we have. And as long as you know that you're doing that, you are in the exact right place that you're supposed to be, with the exact right children and family that you're supposed to be with, that God sent you here to nurture and to help grow. And you can learn more about what I'm doing at the Parenting 411 on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. That's the Parenting 411. And again, my website is CarolMULETA.com. The Parenting 411 podcast is available on almost all the platforms where you commonly go to listen to podcasts, Apple Podcast, Google,
Oh,
Stitcher. There's a lot of different places, but you can start with Apple, I suppose.
Carol, as always, you're a delight. I hope we network together more in the future. And ladies, there's something out there for you. There's something out there for you to learn, something out there for you to do to make a difference. There's some new people to meet. There was this song when I was younger, it was like meeting new people, going new places, and doing new things. And now they've lost my voice. It must be the time's off. Carol, thank you again for being on the show. And we'll send this out, send it to a friend, because this is a great show and it's a wealth of knowledge. And I'm glad you joined us today. So this is Ellen Mongan, your host, CarolMULETA, my guest, and have a great day. God has something for you to do, so much for you to be, and somewhere for you to go. Thank you again, Carol. And
Thank you.
thank you. It's I forgot to say it's Wow Mom on YouTube. It's under Ellen Mongan. That's my YouTube channel. Please sign on and get some of the Carol's books because you will enjoy them, and send one to a friend. Easter's coming. There's something for you to buy. Thank you.